Hi friends, and welcome back to my YouTube channel where I upload at least once a year. Yup. So, I know I've said this before, and I've made it like 2 videos in, but I actually am going to try and upload on a consistent basis. And how I've done this is I now have an editor. Yay! So thanks to Audrey, because y'all probably gonna actually get content now on a regular basis. What has inspired this, you may ask? Well, we are now on day 65, 4, 800, I don't know, depends when this video goes up, but we are on day 60 something and counting on quarantine. So what's the best thing to do in quarantine? Is obviously just to make stuff and pretend the world outside isn't falling to pieces. So today we are going to be talking about how to identify insects in a slightly sarcastic and funny, hopefully, kind of way. So no offense meant, just like a naturally sarcastic person. If you're new here or you've forgotten who I am because I haven't uploaded in like a year, 2 years, whatever. My name is Nancy. I'm an entomologist, which means that I study bugs, and I live in Ecuador, where I normally do insect tours and focus on ecology and entomology. But as that's not happening right now, you get to hear about insects from me in front of this sheet because I'm not in my apartment in Quito, so just pretend there's like my pretty bug background back here. Yeah. Now that we've established that I am obviously very qualified in telling you all of this juicy information, let us get started and talk about how to identify your insect with varying levels of capability. So first level is level 0. This would be you being a troll, or this would be you just taking a picture of whatever and throwing it up on the internet and giving it a name, whether or not it's actually that thing, and you may or may not be confident on that. This is definitely level 0 because many insects can look similar. There's flies that look like wasps, and there's bugs that look like beetles, and there's lots of things that look like other things. So if you just throw something up on the internet and give it a wrong ID, then the chances of someone else using that picture and then quoting it as a thing, sometimes in very important, high-profile things, happens all the time. And then so at best, you nail it. Congratulations, you got lucky. At worst, you spread misinformation, and at like the worst possible case scenario, someone uses your picture, it goes on the front of like a book like this that says Bees of the World, and they have put a picture of a fly, and everything is dumb. So if you don't know, or you're uncertain, or you're not an entomologist, you should not just throw something on the internet with your picture, with your description, and hope for the best. You should at least try to identify it, or number 2, get someone else to identify it. Okay, you have leveled up. You are now a newbie, and you know that you don't know enough to properly probably identify your bug, so you're going to go ask someone who can. This is awesome. Thank you for trying to make sure that the information that you put on the internet is correct. We very much appreciate it because that means the rest of us don't have to clean up the mess. There are different ways of asking other people to do the dirty work for you. The best way to do it, regardless of where you're doing it, is to A, follow the rules, and B, be respectful. If you want someone else to identify your bugs, we are going to go through some proper protocol to make sure that everyone involved can give you the best possible identification and make sure that you don't annoy everybody in the process. Sometimes there are people I've never talked to, never seen in my life. They just send me a picture, a very blurry picture of a bug from really far away, and then are like, what are this? I do not know what that is if it is a speck on the wall from like a bazillion feet away. The first thing, get as close as possible and have as good of a picture as possible, and definitely have a picture. A bad picture is better than no picture at all, even if that bad picture is a sketch. Include anything else you possibly can, where you saw it, what it was doing, what it generally looked like, if it was interacting with anything. All of those things are so helpful because there are you ready for it, over 1 million described insect species. 400,000 of them are just beetles alone. So you can't really expect just like a picture of a shiny little black dot in the distance to be easily recognizable by really anybody. So the closer you get, and having any location data, even if that location data is like a country, telling someone this butterfly is from India is really helpful because there are lots of insects that look very similar but only live in certain regions. Many times, if you are uploading your picture to a Facebook group, to a website, to a blog, whatever, they will not even look at your picture unless it is A, a good picture, and B, has location data attached to it for those major reasons. So if you upload a picture and you never get a response back, there's a good chance that's what happened. Lots of blogs have the rules associated with uploading your pictures. So make sure that you follow all of those rules. They're normally very well written and very plain, and you, especially if it's a Facebook group, then you have to agree to it. Okay, this first reference that I'm going to show you guys is Bug Guide. It is so great, especially if you're from North America, actually only if you're from North America. If you go to the left side over here where all these different insects are, you can click one, it will bring you up to the pictures that are found in this group. I really like it because it tells you about the evolutionary relationships, and if you want, you can also go to the data and it shows you in what states and what areas you can find this specific insect. So that's really helpful if you're wondering if what you found is actually that based on the data that's collected. If you want an expert to ID your bug, you go into ID request. You will need an account. It's really easy to make an account. You just go up here and instead of saying your account, it will say sign up, and you give them your email and then you have an account. To do the ID request, all you do is put add image and then the title of your photo. You need to put all of this location data in, any kind of remarks, and then you can pick your file and you can upload whatever picture you want. And then down here, if you want, you have the copyright owner information. That would be your name or whatever name that you want the copyright under. And if you would like to release it as a Creative Commons or public domain, you can do that too, and that's really helpful for people like me who make videos and need pictures of insects. Please also respect that not every bug thing or every bug person does identification. Not everyone is good at it. Well, I know the common species in Ecuador, but if you send me a picture from like Australia, I'm not probably going to know what it is. So I will redirect you to a group that has an international audience for that reason. There should be someone from your country that knows, at least generally, what that thing is. The Entomology group on Facebook, there's over 140,000 members on this. You go in and you have to be a member to be able to post. It's really easy to be a member. You basically just have to agree to the rules that you're not going to be a jerk, you're going to be respectful, and that you're going to upload bug pictures, only bug pictures, and those bug pictures are going to be accompanied by a location. And so here you will have people posting their bug pictures and people just giving like helpful comments, but a lot of times they are also identified if they weren't originally identified by the person. Once they're identified, the person usually then goes back and uploads or edits their description, so the ID is then permanently attached with the picture. There are a couple other groups that are really good. One of them, for example, is Spider and Bug Questions with the BugGirl. This is run by a friend of mine. She's absolutely great. She's kind of a little bit more community driven, but she's really good for spider stuff. I'm horrible at spider stuff. A lot of entomologists are horrible at spider stuff just because we are formally trained in insects and spiders not insects. So here you have an arachnologist running in a spider group. So very helpful. There are over 1 million insect species, as I was saying. So it's very likely that your insect that you took a picture of, unless it's particularly gaudy, unless it's particularly common, or unless it's a pest species, something like that, may not be immediately recognized down to species, but someone should be able to get you down to order or family or tribe, so generally what it is. If you want a further identification than that, you can then bring your picture to the appropriate group. Say if you're looking for like beetles, there's the Coleoptera group with 11,000 members, and this is just beetles. And you can go in here and you can ask for IDs of just whatever beetles you find, and here you'll have specifically experts focused on just beetles who can probably give you a more specific ID, or if they can't give you a specific ID, they will tell you why. So those people in there are an expert on that specific group and are more likely to be able to give you a very specific ID if you want it. Most of the time, it's not really necessary. I found that most people, once you tell them it's a horsefly, don't really care what kind of horsefly it is. It's just horsefly was good enough. So make sure that you just get down to the level of identification that you want, and also understand that sometimes from a picture you cannot get further down than a genus or sometimes a family. And that is because a lot of insect species, we only have data on very specific structures. We're talking about what's the antennal shape like, what is the internal genitalia, what is the wing venation. So unless you're dissecting out your bug and also showing us pictures of all the dissective pieces, sometimes we can only get so far with a photo, and that is just something that you're just gonna have to accept in your heart of hearts as a truth. All of these places will be linked in the description box below, or the reference section, so that way if you do have that bug picture that has been sitting on your phone for the past 8 months and you want someone to identify it, then you can upload it, and we would be very happy to help you. If you get someone to ID your insect enough times, you might actually start learning the different characteristics. At least in the groups that I have participated in, many of the experts are really kind and tell you it's a this thing because of this, 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 and this. And so you can actually start learning some of the insect characteristics yourself, which means you can upgrade to an intermediate level, and you can start Googling insects yourself. I should be ashamed at the number of times that I have literally just gone into Google and been like, yellow fluffy caterpillar, and seen what popped up. It's also really helpful if you're like, yellow fluffy caterpillar, Connecticut, United States, because then you get things that were taken in that area and you get pictures that are of yellow fluffy caterpillars. And a lot of the times, many people are taking pictures of the same common species, because that's just what you see most often, so then you can start matching them up. Of course, this requires that you know a little bit of base knowledge beforehand, so especially, if someone sends you a picture, you have to know if it's a bee or a fly or a bug or a beetle to get your search started, but that would be something that you might learn from hanging around in entomology groups or hanging around entomology YouTube channels, for example. So eventually you'll get to the level that you can start just kind of Googling and matching pictures up. Things that you'll want to particularly pay attention to are eye structure, antennal structure, what the feet are doing, how many abdominal segments you can count, things like that. Not so much the color, but the shapes and the number of things on the physical insect body, things that you're going to want to be looking at. But do not underestimate the power of Googling yellow fluffy caterpillar and where you found it. So you've leveled up. Now you don't want to rely on someone else after the fact, and now you don't want to rely on Google after the fact. Maybe you're like, I am actually in the forest. I want to know what I'm looking at right now to see if it's worth it or if it's interesting or anything like that. Now you may want to be getting into a field guide. This is important to get a field guide that is specific to the area that you are going, because as I mentioned, with over 1 million insects, if you bring a book with like 1 million insects in it onto the field, it would probably be taller than you and weigh about 800 bazillion pounds. So many field guides pick common species that you're likely to see and have pretty decent pictures to match things up. However, it's still like you'll need to know the difference between a bee and a fly, for example, so that way you can flip to the right page of the field guide and also be familiar enough with the field guide that by the time the thing flies away, you can still find it. You know what I mean? Yeah. But the important thing to note in these field guides is that they cover common species and not everything, because everything would be very difficult. And there are lots of weird families of insects and lots of weird species of insects that aren't particularly common and probably aren't worth putting in the book for like the one person who would find them. So you're just gonna have to up level a little bit more. Okay, friends, it is time for you to up level even further. You do not want to carry around a field guide all the time. You don't want to have to upload your stuff to Google. You don't want to have to ask anyone else for help anymore. You want to be able to have all of this in your brain all the time. Insert meme here, I guess. Meme. What are you gonna do? Well, you can learn from an expert or you can take a class. There's a bunch of different classes and educational programs for all levels, all the way from kids to adults. You can take online university classes. You can go to a university and sit down and have a professor tell you all of these things. And this is a great time to tell you that this video is sponsored by me. Because of quarantine, I can't do tourism, and so I mean, I have to talk about bugs. If I don't talk about bugs to someone in 24 hours, I'm pretty sure sort of my essence like floats away into the ether. So I've created a Facebook group where you and me and other fellow bees that are interested in insects share insect photos, help each other with IDs, talk about cool things in the news we found, ask questions, post art. I go live every single week in that group because I don't like editing, so I actually just go live, and a lot of the topics that I cover are picked by everyone who's in those groups or questions that I've had before, and they often end up being like the precursor to videos that you'll see later on YouTube. So if you want to be first, hashtag first, then you can join us there. And I also do insect workshops, intensive gamified workshops where you would actually learn a lot of this stuff. We just finished our first one called Tricky Tricksters, which was all about identifying some insects and understanding the ideas of mimicry and how that happens. So if those are things that sound interesting to you, you can join the Facebook group at absolutely no cost to you because it's Facebook. While you're at it, if you feel like clicking on things, you can give this video a thumbs up, because this video I think actually has a lot of good useful information and a lot of good useful resources for all of you. Then feel like more people should see this, so put that thumbs up. Thanks, I appreciate it. Finally, you want to be the master. You want to be the one teaching the people how to identify insects, or you might be a person who wants to eventually identify your own insects and get to name one and go to a foreign country and get it into the scientific literature. Or maybe you're just really interested in some obscure group. There isn't anyone else to help you out with that, so you've got to learn it yourself. Well, here, my friend, this is where you enter the realm of the insect keys. Insect key, you will not only need to find a key to the group that you are interested in or down to the level that you're interested in, you will also need to make sure that it fits into your region. Obviously, I'm not in North America, but this is the one I've got on my computer, so this is the one I'm going to show you. This is generally what they look like, and if you scroll right down here, it talks about all the things. You'll get some very important diagrams for the bits and pieces that you are looking at. And this is where the key starts. This one is separating families, and this is how you get down and make sure that you're actually, in this case, looking at a caliphorid and not something like a flesh fly or something else. And then you have the key to the subfamilies, and then from there you would have the key down to the genera and species. But this is generally what they look like, and so you're going to be using a lot of very fine, detailed characteristics. This is why experts in a specific field are only really an expert in their one small group, because you need to understand and look at things like wing venation and hairs on certain parts of the body and face structure and genitalia structure. So that is why you are probably not going to get down to a species level of identification without really, really high level photographs, a specific specimen, or an expert in the field. But you should still try, and it will get you down to at least probably family, subfamily, and if you're pretty good, genus, and if you really know what you're doing, down to species. So I hope that helps a little bit. So you have to be pretty advanced in basic entomological knowledge to even use the keys. But I am thinking about making a video about how to use the insect keys. So if that is something you're interested in, leave a comment below. So this is my question where I ask you to be all introspective. Where on this scale are you? It doesn't really matter. Everyone starts somewhere. I walked into my graduate level taxonomy class with absolutely no knowledge about how to identify insects. I couldn't tell you the difference between most insects, and I didn't know that ladybugs were beetles, for example. So it doesn't really matter. We all start somewhere, but as long as you know where you are, that you can find the proper materials to help you out. All right, friends, with that being said, I hope that you really like this video. Click here for something that the YouTube algorithm has picked out for you, and click here for my most recent video. So yes, click the things. Yep. I will see you all next week because I'm an editor now and I am sticking to it this time. Yes. All right, bye everybody.